My day started like any other. I woke up to the sound of my cat knocking over my game cartridges. Not quite the good morning I'd hoped for, but it never is round these parts. Breakfast was the usual Pop-Tarts, though I would have preferred pancakes. It'd be nice if Mom at least pretended that she gave a damn, but I guess in this world you take what you can get. I've been on the hunt for the perfect PC handheld for what feels like an eternity. Each lead colder than a root beer in a snowstorm. And still, here I am, empty-handed. It's a hard knock life for a tech detective, always chasing shadows in the dark. But today, things might change. Today I've got the OneXFly on my desk. She's a beauty, no denying that. She's sleek, shiny, got all the bells and whistles. But is she the answer to my prayers, or just another dead end? Only one way to find out. Hey there, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. There are lots of handheld gaming PCs out there. There's pretty much something for everyone. Whatever features you need, whatever your budget, whatever performance. And that's a good thing for you as a customer that you have so many choices and can get something that fits what you need. But that's a bad thing for new handhelds because it makes it hard to stick out in the crowded handheld PC market. Which brings us to this. This here is the OneXFly. And I'm really into this handheld. It's unique in a few ways, and I gotta say, it caught my attention. It does some stuff super right and some stuff not as right, and today we're gonna talk about all that stuff. And also play some games on it, obviously. That's what it's for after all. I knew I had to dig deeper, get to the heart of this thing. The specs were the key, the lifeblood of any device, and I was ready to dissect every little detail. Time to see if the OneXFly had the guts to back up its glitter. This thing is powered by the Ryzen 8840u processor, which is a Zen 4 chip with 8 cores, 16 threads, and a max boost up to 5.1 GHz. We also get integrated Radeon 780M graphics, which is no slouch. We get 32 GB of RAM standard, LPDDR5X clocked at 7500 megathings per second. My model here also has 1 TB of NVMe internal storage. The screen is a 7-inch 1080p LCD screen with a 120Hz refresh rate. We also get Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, and a 48.5 watt-hour battery. On the front, we have a screen, left stick over here with RBG, a select button, D-pad below that, and a function button down here, and an RBG OneXFly logo. On the right, we have a start button, face buttons, a right stick down here, also with RBG, 2 function buttons for the on-screen keyboard and the quick settings, and another RBG logo. Up top, we have bumpers and triggers and an extra rebindable button and a power button, volume up and down, and a headphone hole, and a USB-C hole for charging, and a USB-A hole, which I really like to see, and another rebindable button and a vent grill for airflow. Underneath, we have dual downward firing stereo speakers and a USB-C hole for docking and an SD card hole. Around back, we have another vent grill for airflow and a Ryzen 7 sticker that is a little bit crooked, I think. I'd like to say this is the only mystery I'm trying to solve, but life's got a way of throwing curveballs. My cat Hermione, man's best friend indeed. She treats me like I'm her butler. And Mom, well, let's just say the highlight of her day is watching cooking TikToks and ignoring the fact that we're out of root beer again. Sometimes I wonder if anyone would notice if I just disappeared. But enough about my sob story. You're here for the OneXFly, and I'm here to see if it lives up to the hype. Back to the grind. This thing is certainly unique looking. They make a black version, which is a little bit more boring than this white one. The grips on the side are gray, so a bit of variation there. And it's got this bluish brushed metal texture on the bumpers and the D-pad and the buttons. And at first, I didn't like it. I thought it looked cheesy. But when I turned on the RBG and set that to pink, suddenly the whole handheld just felt cute to me. This isn't a huge handheld by any means. It's a lot narrower than most of them thanks to the thin bezel display, but it's still a good height to fill out your hands. These grippy humps on the side are a good shape and size to squeeze comfortably, and the placement of the sticks and buttons is perfect. It's just a nice, comfortable handheld. As for the pocketability, no. No, don't put this in your pocket. Well, I mean, you do what you want to do. I'm not here to stop you, but I'm not going to put this in my pocket. I have better things to put in there, thank you very much. The sticks are a bit on the small side, kind of more like Switch sticks than full-size sticks, but they do have good quality input and they are totally usable. The triggers are great, perfect input quality, nice and sensitive. The buttons and the bumpers are awesome. They have a membrane feel to them and they're not too loud. The D-pad looks good and it feels good, but I was having some issues getting good quality inputs from it. I could barely pull off special moves in fighting games. The diagonals aren't super easy to hit unless you mash down on the D-pad pretty hard. For normal gaming, it was working fine, but if you're getting this specifically for retro games, then you probably won't love this D-pad. Just so you know. You know, I've spent a lot of nights staring at the ceiling, pondering the big questions. Why are we here? What's the meaning of life? Why are Funyuns so damn good? The answers are elusive, like trying to find that one website amongst an endless sea of open tabs. But maybe it's not about finding the perfect answer. Maybe it's about the journey, the search for the one perfect handheld that makes everything click. And perhaps the answer lies in the little things, like finding a handheld that doesn't die on you halfway through a boss fight. Maybe that's all the meaning we need. That and a good root beer. The screen is pretty darn good. It has a tiny thin bezel which makes the screen feel nice and big on the device. It's a great screen, great colors, great viewing angles. 1080p at 7 inches is super crisp. It's an LCD, not OLED, but it's a great LCD. And it's 120 Hz, so you can get a high refresh rate experience on here and lots of options to lock it down to like 60 FPS or 40 FPS or 30 FPS for nice smooth frame pacing. However, it's not a variable refresh rate screen, so you won't get that smooth VRR movement that you get on the ROG Ally, for instance. And also it's a rotated vertical display, which can cause issues in a few older games. So it's a good screen. It's not an amazing end game screen or anything, but it's a good one. The sound, though, is amazing. This thing has incredible speakers. I mean, I can't show you what they sound like, you'll just have to take my word for it, but they're loud with deep, rich sound quality across the entire range, super bassy and crisp and clear. Freaking well done, One X. You nailed the sound on this thing. I turned it on and the Windows boot spinner shone out at me from the darkness. It's always Windows. Damn. Every time I think I've found the one, it's like the universe has a sixth sense of humor. Colder than a root beer in a snowstorm. All that hope, all that promise, and it's running Windows 11. It's like finding a beautiful old arcade cabinet and discovering it's full of worms and rat poo. Yeah, so we're on Windows, which is to be expected. There is a version of Bazzite that you can install on here to make it more Steam Deck-like, which I will probably do, but it's Windows out of the box. There's a couple of extra features that we get on the One X devices. This button down here opens a on-screen keyboard, which works well. This button opens the quick settings where you can change the TDP, anywhere from 4 watts up to 30 watts, and tweak the fan and change the RGB, and toggle a performance overlay, and a few other settings. And then you can press this button down here to open the One X software, where you can access some in-depth settings like your controller settings. Overall, yeah, I haven't had any issues using this. The Windows is stable, it's not too annoying. There's no bloatware or anything installed. I could change the settings I wanted. The quick settings works well to change the TDP and stuff on the fly. It's pretty good, all things considered. The OneXFly. It's got a processor that purrs like a kitten, a display that's sharper than my cat Hermione's claws, and enough battery life to last through a night of hard gaming. I've seen a lot of gadgets come and go, but the OneXFly, it's got something. It's smooth, responsive, like a well-oiled Dell Optiplex. But is it the Holy Grail? Well, that's the millions-any question, isn't it? Gaming on this thing is great. Like with any handheld PC, you'll need to play the balancing act of tweaking the in-game settings and the resolution and the TDP power to get the games running well without using up all your battery juice. We have the ability to go as low as 4 watts and all the way up to 30 watts. I'll tell you right now that there will not be lots of games that run well at 4 watts. Very lightweight indie games and retro games will be fine, but for anything even moderately demanding, you should expect to be going up to at least 10 watts, probably more. But for those games that do run well at 4 watts, and that there's lots of them, you'll be able to get 3 to 4 hours of battery life like that. That doesn't mean that you can't run graphically impressive stuff at lower wattages, it just means that you need to make compromises. Here's an example. This is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And if you want to play at a lower wattage to save battery life, you can run at 12 watt TDP with the low settings and 50% resolution scale, and the game still looks pretty good like this, and you'll get above 30 FPS. And I calculated around 2.5 hours of total battery life at 12 watts. However, if you want it to look sharper, you can run at medium settings and 1080p native and go up to 15 watt TDP and get about 30 FPS, and about 2 hours of game time on battery like that. And if you're okay with burning a bit extra juice, you can go all the way up to 20 watts and get around 37 FPS on average, but you'll be down at about 1.5 hours of battery life. And beyond that, you get into diminishing returns territory after about 20 watts. You see, here I went all the way up to 30 watts and I only went up to 41 FPS. And you'll end up getting just a bit over an hour of game time on battery. It's definitely not worth the extra juice at higher wattages. Unless you're running this plugged into a TV or monitor or something, then you can go all out. Since I was using this as my handheld PC for the past week, I've been doing all sorts of stuff on it. Indie games are lovely on this thing. Since it's a bit of a smaller device and it's also kind of cute and fun looking, I found that lower spec games were actually a good fit on here. I was playing some Bot Vice and some Streets of Rage 4 and I was down at just 4 watts playing those and they played great. For Cultic, I had to go up to 10 watts, but it's running great there and you'll get a ton of battery life like that. One new game that I've been playing is Assassin's Creed Mirage. This is a very well optimized game, it runs amazing, and I was able to run this at the high settings, 1080p native at a 20 watt TDP and I averaged about 60 FPS. You could run this at medium settings and use some FSR to be able to play down at 15 watts or maybe even down at 12 watts if you're okay with a lower FPS. In Doom Eternal, I was running at the medium settings, 1080p native, and I wanted a higher refresh rate experience for this game, so I went up to 20 watts. And I ended up with about 72 FPS on average. And I didn't film it, but earlier I was playing this game with the resolution scale turned down and getting over 100 FPS, and it was freaking smooth and fun as heck like that. Baldur's Gate 3 is another game that I like to play on handhelds. This is medium settings with quality FSR, and at 20 watts I was getting 41 FPS on average. And I didn't do a ton of emulation testing, but I did do a bit. I was surprised to see that GameCube games were running upscaled to 1080p with widescreen hacks down at 6 watts. Same thing with PSP. Even the hardest games upscaled to 1080p, you can run them at 6 watts and they don't even break a sweat. And for the lowest end games, the really retro stuff, you can go right down to 4 watts and run them fine, even with shaders and stuff. And because we're on an 8840u, I don't think there's any emulation that you can't do on here. I didn't test Xbox 360 or PS3 or whatever, but I doubt you'd have any issues. I've been down this road before, too many times. Each new device, each new promise of perfection, it always starts the same. That glimmer of hope, that whisper of a dream, but then reality sets in. Each disappointment piling up like my AliExpress credit card bills on my mom's sewing table. You start to wonder if it's all worth it. The endless search, the sleepless nights, the empty promises, like you're trapped in a noir film where the rain never stops and the good guy never wins. I've walked these streets for too long, chased too many phantoms, each lead colder than a root beer in a snowstorm. I know I keep using that idiom, but I don't care anymore. You get what you get in this life, including reused idioms that are colder than a root beer in a snowstorm. When I need to review a PC handheld, what I usually do is load it up with all my stuff and make that my handheld for a week or so to actually use it and see what it's like. This is what I did with the OneXFly, and at first I wasn't expecting to like it, but I was wrong, as usual. I really did love using this thing. I don't know if it's the best choice in the PC handheld market because what's best will depend on your budget and your priorities and what's important to you, what you need. There is no one best handheld. Apart from the Miu Mini, of course. Right now, you can get this for $910 on Amazon if you use the coupon. So considering that the Ally X is $800, for an extra $110, you get 32 gigabytes of RAM instead of 24, and an 8840u instead of a Z1 Extreme, and the 8840u is better than the Z1 Extreme, about 20% faster on average. If getting the extra performance and RAM is important to you, I think paying an extra $100 or so is a pretty small price to pay for what you get here. But there are other trade-offs though. The Ally X has variable refresh rate and a bigger battery. And the Steam Deck, of course, is amazing. It's not nearly as performant as either the OneXFly or the Ally X, but it's amazing for the price, and it's super comfortable and easy to use. And the market is all over the place. You can find lots of used handhelds and like open box deals. So really, there is no one size fits all answer to whether or not this is the best choice for you. All I can tell you is that it does seem like a good thing for the price, and I will say that after using this like crazy for a week, if you do get this, then I'm pretty darn sure you'll enjoy it and have a great time gaming on it. It's a really, really nice handheld, and if you want one, there's a link to where you can buy this on Amazon in the doodad below. My day started with Pop-Tarts, but ended with more questions than answers. Maybe the perfect handheld is just a pipe dream, something to chase but never catch. But hey, that's the game we play, right? We keep searching, keep hoping, because sometimes that's all we got. So I'll keep walking these mean streets, eyes peeled for the next big thing, because in this crazy world of gadgets and doodads, a glimmer of hope is still better than a blue screen of death. Well, that's the end of this story. I'm TechDweeb, signing off. And don't forget to clear your browser history, just in case.